Hey guys, it's Olivia and I'm back with another video. So the day that I am filming this is Saturday, March 13th, 2021. And if you guys have been watching my channel for a little over a year, then you would know that on March 10th, 2020, I started delivering for Uber Eats. So it's been over a year since I started driving for Uber Eats, and I'm going to share with you my stats from my first ever year driving for Uber Eats. Everything from how much money I made total to how much money I made hourly, how much money I averaged per delivery, how much money I made from referrals, how many kilometers I put on my car, everything. I'm going to share with you all the stats from my first year delivering on Uber Eats. But before we get into this week's video, be sure to subscribe to my channel because I make new videos every Monday. I make anywhere from Uber Eats videos like this to rant videos to pop socket videos. And with all that being said, let's get into this week's video. So I have everything written down on my phone, so I'm going to be looking down a lot in this video, but I'm going to share with you the number that you guys want to hear, which is how much money I made on Uber in my first year. So this is my gross income. I haven't paid taxes on it yet. I'm gonna have to do that next month in April. And this doesn't include like how much money I spent on gas, how much money I spent on oil changes, blah, blah, blah. This is just how much money Uber has paid me thus far. And that number is $16,741.87. So yeah, that's a pretty decent amount of money. So if we go into the Uber app really quickly, you can see that the first day I started delivering was March 10th of last year. And then if we scroll to the very top, the last deliveries that I have done was on March 10th of this year. So this is my 1 year of earnings. And so if we go back to the very beginning when I just started delivering, as you can see, I was making hundreds of dollars a week, if not over $1,000 a week. But then as we get into June, July, it started to go down a little bit because I started to do summer school. And then when we get to September, it's pretty much $100. That one day in November was over 400. And so it was like between like 90 and like $200 average because I had school. And then this one week in December where I made over 700 because I made a whole video about a week doing Uber Eats, and I'll link that right there. But yeah, so as you can see, as I had more schoolwork, I was working less, but I did work every single week for at least one day, except for 2 weeks. So let's talk about those really quickly. So as you can see, January 11th to January 18th, it says I made $400 on the 14th. However, if I click that, you'll see that I was online for 0 seconds, did 0 trips, 0 points. Everything is 0. That is from a referral. So one of my referrals completed their 50 trips, so I got $400, but I did not drive that week. And then if we go to the 18th to the 25th, it says no activity and $0. So why didn't I deliver for those 2 weeks? Well, person in my household got COVID, and so I had to quarantine for 2 weeks. I didn't have it. I went and got a test and it came back negative, but I still quarantined for 2 weeks because that's what you're supposed to do. And I wasn't going to be walking around handling people's food when there was a person in my house who had been tested positive for COVID. So I took those 2 weeks off. And so I would have made $0 2 weeks in a row, but the first week, one of my referrals ended up pulling through for me. So I drove for 50 out of 52 weeks in the past year. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. So now, I told you that I made over $16,000 last year. Let's break that number down a little bit further. So, as I said, that 1 week I made $400 from a referral, which means that I was making money from referrals throughout the year. I managed to get 9 referrals who completed their trips, and I made $2,220 from referrals, right? So if we subtract that $2,220 from the $16,741.87 total, that means that I made $14,521.87 from driving. So the reason why I was able to get some referrals is because of this YouTube channel. Whenever I make a Uber related video, I always link my referral link in the description. So let's pretend that I didn't have a YouTube channel and therefore I wasn't getting referrals. Then I would have made $14,521.87 because that is how much I made from the deliveries I was doing. So then if we break down that number, $14,521.87, if we break down that number even further, we'll get this. So of that $14,000, $4,568.64 was from tips. So that wasn't from what Uber was just giving out all willy-nilly. That was from people being generous and tipping me $3 here, $5 here, $20 here. Like, I was getting some high tips, some low tips all around, but they obviously eventually all add up because over $4,500 of what I made last year was from tips, which means that $9,953.23 was directly from Uber. And that money also includes surges and boosts, and so that also depends on the area that you're delivering in. If you were delivering in an area with no surges and no boosts, then that $9,900 would be lower. So yes, let me just break it down all together one more time. My total gross income, $16,741.87. $2,220 was from referrals. $4,568.64 was from tips, and $9,953.23 was just from Uber's fare that they were gonna pay regardless. So that is the breakdown of my total earnings. So then this is another thing that I want to break down earnings wise. So I did in the past year, I've done 1,612 deliveries. And so if we take the $14,000, which is what I earned from driving, we're not including the referral bonuses right now. So if we take the $14,521.87 and divide it by 1,612 deliveries, we get about $9.01 per delivery. So that wasn't just what Uber was paying out. Like, Uber might have paid me $5 for a delivery and then the person tipped me $4, right? So including tips and surges and boosts and everything, I was averaging about $9.01 per delivery. And also, if we want to know what I was making hourly throughout the year, I went through all the weeks, added up all the hours, all the minutes, everything that I worked, and I worked 613.93 hours. And so if we take $14,521.87 and divide it by the 613.93 hours that I drove, I was averaging $23.65 per hour, which in Ontario, the minimum wage is around $15, maybe like $15.75. I don't really know because Uber is the first and only job I've ever had, so I don't know what the minimum wage is currently, but I know that it's around $15. And so I made about $8 more average than the minimum wage. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And if you saw my community post from a couple of weeks ago, there was one day where I made $35 an hour. So yeah, obviously it fluctuates and it depends on what time of day, what day of the week, what part of the city you're in. There's so many variables, but once you find that sweet spot, like this is the best day, these are the best times, this is the best part of the city, you can make a good amount of money. And then the last thing that I want to delve into is how many kilometers did I put on my car. I will put the miles conversion on the screen. So I drove 17,362 kilometers for Uber in the past year, which is equivalent to 10,788.25 miles. And that is just for Uber. So in this past year, I've probably put over 20 or 25,000 kilometers on my car, and 17,362 kilometers was specifically from driving for Uber Eats. So I use the QuickBooks Self-Employed app to track my mileage. No, this video is not sponsored. I pay for it. I have been paying for it monthly for the past year. This video is not sponsored by them. It's just genuinely what I use. So those are all the numbers I have. That is all the math that I did. And yes, that is what my first year on Uber Eats looks like. Yes, I do work part-time on Uber Eats. I was working full-time over the summer because I had a whole bunch of time over the summer, but then during the school year, I work part-time, and sometimes that's 1 day a week. Sometimes it's 3 days a week, just whenever like I don't have class or I don't have an assignment due or whatever, then I go out and work. And so this is the earnings for a mainly part-time Uber Eats driver. So if you are a full-time Uber Eats driver, or you're not driving yet, but you're thinking about it and you're thinking about doing it full time, well, if I can earn $16,741.86 part time, some of these weeks only working 1 day a week, then if you're working 5 to 7 days a week for 40 plus hours a week, you're gonna earn quite a bit more than me. So part-time earnings is still a lot more than minimum wage. And so full-time earnings is going to be absolutely crazy. So yeah, so that is it. That is my first year doing Uber Eats. That is how much money I earned from March 10th, 2020 to March 10th, 2021. Over $16,000 including referrals. And yes, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you think your friends will enjoy it, be sure to share it with them. All my social media links will be down below in case you want to follow me on there. Be sure to subscribe to my channel because I make new videos every Monday, and I'll see you next Monday with a new video. Oh, I need to sneeze. Okay. So the day that I am filming this is, Saturday, March 13th. And if you guys have been here for a little over a year, then you would know that on Tuesday, so the day that I am filming this is Saturday, March 13th, 2021. And if you guys have been watching my channel for a little over, I can't talk.